Tim, welcome to our show. Thank you very much for joining us today. Could you just give us a little introduction about yourself and what it is you and your company are doing within the cybersecurity space?
Sure, Danny. Thanks for having me. So I'm Tim Panagos. I'm the co-founder and CTO for a company called Microshare. We're about an 8-year-old startup, which is getting a little bit old to call myself a startup, I grant. But by way of background, I've been working in software and architecture, usually for large-scale systems. My early career was in building banking software, and been doing that for about 25 years. That's crazy to say that, but that's the truth. And one of the things that I wanted to do in founding Microshare was to take some of the technologies and approaches to data-driven business that we have been using in very large, very expensive projects globally for some of the biggest banks, the most innovative companies. Try to democratize some of that technology, scale it down so that more people could take advantage of the benefits of really being data-driven. So that's been, I guess, a journey really of the last 10 years of mine, culminating really in Microshare. It's not the end of the journey by any means as well. I think that's an ongoing.
Cool. Could you? That's great. Thanks in this introduction, Tim. Could you tell us a little bit more about what it is that you're actually building? When we were talking previously last week, some of the pieces that you were alluding to in Microshare were around shaping the next generation of smart facilities, and then really kind of focusing on the Internet of Things devices as well. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, that's quite right, Danny. When we talk about Microshare today, we generally talk about it as being a digital twin platform for the built space, right? It's a real estate. Mm-hmm. What is a digital twin? Maybe not everybody's aware of that, to bring it down to the sort of more technical bolts and bits. IoT is a really important part of this. So it's deploying sensors into an office area, a facility like a hospital or a factory, being able to collect information from a lot of different sensors, a lot of different types of sensors, and bring it back in a way that makes people who manage those facilities, be that building owners or tenants or, facilities, service providers like, maintenance staff or cleaners, bring that data back so that they can make better decisions and operationalize the way they manage those properties. Ultimately, that's what we're doing, and that necessarily brings together a lot of different technology areas, right? IoT, very broad umbrella for different things. I suspect we'll talk more about that because from a cybersecurity perspective, IoT is kind of a boogeyman, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So we have found really important reasons why IoT is something people want to allow into the built space and allow into their life. And we've built a platform really around demystifying things like choosing sensors, deploying networks, collecting data, and then the analytic tools that need to go around with data engineering. I don't throw around the term AI lightly. Frankly, the built space is not truly ready for AI quite yet, but advanced analytics that would allow people to, use all this new data and indeed data that they already have to really drive insights they can act on, right? Actionable insight at the end of the day is what drives business change, what gets people ROI. So we're really trying to drive that business ROI to people who manage buildings in one way or another. And frankly, the people within the buildings, which is sometimes lost in the mix, but ultimately it's how humans interact with their environment that matters most. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to boil out all the complexity from the technology and the business of all that stuff that goes up front, so we can just get people to have the insights they need to start improving the way they serve their tenants in built spaces.
That's really interesting. So we're talking about using these smart devices, or should I say, drawing the data from these smart devices to improve processes, and also improve. I think we discussed in specifically the last time we spoke, really improving the kind of the way that we approach certain things. And I think one of the things we picked on specifically was hygiene. I think in the current climate, especially, is really relevant. I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about how the pandemic has kind of shaped what you guys are doing, but more importantly, what is it that you're actually offering that helps organizations around the pandemic as well?
Yeah, David, good question. The last year, if we were talking February of 2020, what I would tell you we were doing or planning to do for the year would be very different than what we've done looking back. Given quarantine, obviously one of the key topics in the world has been contact tracing, or at least early in the pandemic. And so we were quite fortunately able to really quickly deploy a contact tracing solution on the back of our existing IoT platform. And for us, it was quite natural. There are companies out there that offer contact tracing only solutions for sure. But we saw this really as an extension of the telematics in a built space. Is ultimately about understanding the social interconnectedness of the humans in that space, how they interact with each other, and how they interact with the space. So, I doubt any of your listeners don't know what contact tracing is right at this stage. But, usually when we talk about contact tracing, we're talking about the process, a human process of, hey, somebody's got infected. Let me call that person and ask them who they've had contact with over the last 2 weeks. And what people have seen and what we have seen by the data is people are pretty good at doing that within a 2 or 3 day time span. But once you get to 4, 5, 6, 14 days, humans' memories about who they've interacted with drop off pretty quickly. So using data to supplement that human memory or human awareness is really where the technology side of contact tracing comes in. And of course, once you have a sense of who might have been contacted, you can direct resources to those people who are likely to be infected, right? Whether it's additional testing or requirement to quarantine. Hey, you should stay home for the next 14 days. You might have been exposed. The outcome of that process is ultimately, hopefully, quelling the spread of the infection. And so we saw the rise of smartphone apps and tools to be able to do that. Our particular focus being an IoT core technology provider was on wearables. And they take the form often of a bracelet or a badge or the kind of badge that you'd wear on a lanyard, looks like an HID card, that would allow us to use Bluetooth via a novel wireless technology called LoRaWAN to collect that information from a space, the human interactions between them, human interactions with the space around them, and then kind of post-process that to figure out who has the both distance and time dimensions that would allow us to assign a risk to a contact.